Good morning, students. Hope you all are fine. Our today's topic is outbreeding devices or contrivances to ensure the cross-pollination. Our first outbreeding devices is declining, or we can say unisexuality. Flowers are unisexual so that self-pollination is not possible. The plants may be monoecious or dioecious. If the plant is monoecious, then it bears both male and female flowers. For example, maize. And if the flower is, or we can say plant is dioecious, it bears male and female flower on different plants. For example, mulberry and papaya. Second outbreeding devices is dichogamy. Anther and stigma mature at different time of in a bisexual flower so as to prevent self-pollination. This is called dichogamy. Its first type is protogyny, in which the anther matures earlier than the stigma of the same flower. Their pollen grains become available to the stigma of the older flower. For example, sunflower and salvia. Protogyny, in which the stigma matures earlier so that they get pollinated before the anther of the same flower develop pollen grain. For example, Mirabilis jalapa. Next outbreeding devices is another flower germinate more rapidly over the stigma than the pollen grain of the same flower. For example, apple or grapes. Self-sterility, or we can say self-incompatibility. Pollen grain of the flower do not germinate on the stigma of the same flower due to presence of similar self-sterile genes. These genes are S1, S3 in pistil and S1 or S3 in pollen grains. For example, tobacco, potato, crucifers. Next outbreeding devices is heterostyly. There are 2 or 3 types of flowers with different heights of styles and stigma. This is of 2 types. First one is diheterostyly or dimorphic heterostyly. There are 2 types of flowers, pinnide and thrumbide. Next one is triheterostyly. There are 3 types of flowers with different heights of styles, long, medium and short, and stamens medium, short and long. For example, lythrum. Pollination occurs between anther and stigma of the same height present in the different flowers. Next outbreeding devices is hercogamy. It is a mechanical device to prevent the self-pollination and promote cross-pollination. Extruses descent of anther. In pansy, stigma lies inside the flap, while in Kalmia, the anther occurs inside the coral packet. These are the examples. Importance of cross-pollination. Here we are going to discuss some advantages. Cross-pollination introduces genetic recombination and hence the adaptability of the offspring toward the change in the environment. It makes the organism better fitted in the struggle for existence. The plants produced through cross-pollination are more resistant to disease. The seeds produced are usually larger and the offsprings have characteristics better than the parent due to phenomena of hybrid vigor. New and more useful varieties can be produced through the cross-pollination. The defective characters of the races are eliminated and replaced by the better characters. The yield never falls below the average minimum. Here are some disadvantages also. First one is it is highly wasteful because plants have to produce a large number of pollen grains and other accessory structures in order to suit the various pollinating agencies. A factors of chance is always involved in the cross-pollination. It is less economical. Some undesirable characters may creep in the race. The very good character of the race are likely to be spoiled. Now, our next topic is pollen pistil interaction. Pollen pistil interaction is the group of events that occur from the time of pollen deposition over the stigma to the time of pollen tube entry into the ovule. It is dynamic process in which he checks in which checks at several places for promotion or inhibition of the pollen growth. Knowledge of pollen pistil interaction is helpful to plant breeders in manipulating plant growth even in incompatible cases. Pollen growth can be observed by dusting pollen on drop of 10% sugar solution. Within 15 to 30 minutes, pollen tube will observe to come out of the pollen grain. Pollen pistil interaction is a safety measure to ensure that crossing do not occur. Pollen grain of the number of plants may settle over the stigma. Only the right pollen belong to the same species would germinate while others are failed to do so. Compatibility and incompatibility of the pollen pistil is determined by the special proteins. The compatibility pollen are able to absorb water and nutrient from the surface of the stigma. They germinate and produce pollen tube. Pollen tubes grow into the style. Their growth and path through the style are also determined by specific chemicals. So this is the pollen pistil interaction.